Hello, and welcome to Perspectives, the podcast series from Luxoft, where we discuss the latest technology trends with IT experts and consider their impact on business and consumer lives. My name is Pat Corcoran, Global Director of External Relations at Luxoft, and today I shall be your host. I'm joined here by a colleague of mine, Dmitry Vichinsky, who's our practice director for Luxoft's energy vertical, which is a combination of both oil and gas and utilities, joined by one of the leading sourcing advisor and transformation consultants in the Middle East, Morgan Eldred, managing partner of Digital Energy, which is operating at a global level on the similar industries, but has a very unique horizontal perspective in the nascent digital world. Blockchain. It has strangled the media. It has forced the technology research to take a pivot from digital to the chain. There's a lot of hype in the enterprise as to what do we do next? How does this impact my industry? Is it hype? Is it not? I would argue that one of the industries that there hasn't been a whole lot of coverage on is energy. So Morgan, being where you are, not only geographically, but certainly positioned within the industry, what are we hearing about blockchain and energy?
Certainly not enough, but it's an extremely hot topic. And I think, if you ask me, blockchain is the digital energy of the future. It truly is. It is game changing in this industry, and it's not being talked about because I think people aren't getting their heads around. But when you think about, and let's not talk about blockchain, let's just think about the cryptocurrency and mining cryptocurrency. That's going to have such a huge demand on the energy supply and the smart grid. Just in mining it, that can keep the energy industry going, for years. But in terms of, we talked about those in previous sessions. We talked about procurement and vendor management, taking time to get things through. We talked about the inability for these organizations to move quick. Blockchain is the answer to most of these problems. So it truly is revolutionary in this industry. Not transformational, revolutionary in the energy industry, and it's not being talked about enough. And I believe it soon will, when people start to realize how big an impact it truly is going to have.
What do you think's driving that, though? I mean, we have a revolution on the financial services world, on the payments in particular. Certainly, there's a lot of applicability in automotive. But why is it dragging its feet, if you will, in the energy world?
Lack of awareness, lack of skills. That's what I would say. First, people don't really understand the difference between a cryptocurrency, a distributed ledger technology, let alone, do they know about, know your customers, tokens. So they're not able to understand what it is, let alone then understand the applicability it can have. And I think that's the major challenge, has been lack of awareness and, lack of truly understanding it. However, if you look at it, energy companies they're portfolio management companies. There's, when there was the oil price, the first year the oil prices started going down in 2015, $380 billion of capital spend was deferred. So there's serious money that's being moved within this. And so if it's working in the financial industry or the capital markets, this is a technology that can easily be transferred and have just as game-changing aspects in the energy sector.
Now, are you seeing interest in it not only from the publicly traded enterprises, but also some of the state-run organizations in that part of the world?
Digital took about 8 years to become the priority of the C-level, or maybe not even the priority. Let's say just to get on their radar, it took digital that long. We're seeing CEOs, come out and want to talk about blockchain and want to understand it. That is the impact, and in my entire career in this industry, I've never seen the highest C-level executives want to know about this and want to understand this. This never happened with digital, with IoT, with AI. It was not there, but it's there with blockchain, and it's there with blockchain from when the hype really started, kind of mid of this year. And I think it's the hottest topic in this industry at the moment.
So let's drive that a little further then. Is the public sector, where some of these enterprises may be classified, are they moving just as fast as the private organizations are to adopt this, or at least understand it better?
I think on the understanding, yes. The adoption is still a little bit of a way away, but we are seeing a lot of interest on proof of concepts. Organizations wanting to try it out and really see what it can do.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of the research I've seen is that there's been a lot of POCs, which is fine because this is certainly a POC starting point, and those are quickly evolving into, once they see the immediate benefits, into the longer term project, which has been great. And I wonder, Morgan, do you see the let's say the slower speed of the adoption of just outsourcing in general in the industry? Do you see that being overruled because blockchain is a need and a must and a have right away? Moving more quickly to adopt even a POC.
I certainly do. I think the one thing is, recently Venezuela, for example, created the petro, which is a cryptocurrency, which obviously is based on blockchain technology, and that's tied to oil prices. So this is going at state and national level, and so yes, we're seeing that it is because it's new. It is because it's hot topic. There's reports out there in the world that like 10% of global GDP is going to be based on DLT, blockchain technology. So yes, I think it's just get in, understand it is really why the organizations are there. And the thing about blockchain is, from an industry perspective, there's not a lot of people in this industry that truly understand what blockchain can do for them. At the same time, blockchain is so nascent as a technology that even your traditional technology majors, let's call them the Microsofts, the Apples, the IBMs, not necessarily the best players at driving this technology forward either, because blockchain is happening or has been occurring, as you guys rightly know very well. It's occurring within the organizations that adopt multiple platforms. They're not platform dependent. And I think that's also what's disruptive is, I can't necessarily just go to my traditional consultants who's going to come in and say, well, we know about blockchain, because they don't, so do they know about the industry, and do they know specifically about blockchain? And that's a very hard thing to do, because if you get stuck on the platform or a specific platform on blockchain within your organization, you can be really, really at a disadvantage. There's so many platforms out there for public chains, private chains. If you want to do your own token, specific tokens that you want to release into the market, all of this creates a new world, and a new world with new skills.
So Dmitry, I think Morgan gave us a solid overview of the blockchain initiatives taking place in the industry. I think that was a good macro sort of bird's eye view of what's happening. Can you talk about the smart grid applicability of blockchain? Because I think, that is a solid combination of opportunity that, we should be focused on, and end users, more importantly, should be looking at.
Yes, absolutely. And I think here in smart grid, the blockchain as a technology is a huge threat for the whole industry. Let's imagine the utility and energy industry of 20th century. So we have huge power plants somewhere. We have transmission line bringing the big volumes of the energy to utility, to the big city, for example. The city is growing. It's demanding more energy. And what the traditional way of 20th century is just to build another transmission line to extend the capacity and receive this energy to the city. But the line is ugly, extremely expensive, and and again with extra capacity, which is not going to be used right now or anytime sooner. In 21st century happens that with this demand, we can also, and some cities does, they actually set up the power generation, for example, gas turbine right in the middle of the city. And they start to produce this energy only for their own use. And they start to use transmission lines only as an addition, but not the main provider. And inside of the city, there are hundreds of thousands households with renewable generation from the solar or wind. Doesn't really matter for at this moment. And they also became prosumers. They generate and then consume the energy. There also appears batteries, like gigafactories, for example. They already 5 of them in the world, and they keep going. And that could become a commodity for every big utility. So when we have such energy resources and all of them are independent, the role of transmission operators became minimum for the grid, the role of utility itself also, and the ability for every peer of this grid, every energy resource, to communicate and trade between each other, that's changing the rule for the whole industry completely. So if we have household with a solar generation, generating electricity right to the grid, or he can generate electricity and this electricity could be consumed by his neighbor in the microgrid in the neighborhood. So, and they, with the blockchain, they have ability to charge everyone directly. One of the key points in the energy industry that 2/3 of the bill, of electricity bill, is actually delivery of this electricity, not the energy itself. And we can eliminate this part from the bill completely. But we don't need to transfer all the electricity, big volumes from power plants somewhere far. We can use all the items, every battery, every wind generator, every solar generator, and all the consumers, including electrical vehicles. So we can aggregate all the data and every single unit into one perfect grid, self-balancing and as a financial units and self-balancing from the energy perspective unit. So it's a game-changing. It's new paradigm of the energy industry. So without blockchain, we have no such ability to organize the financial relationships between every single point of this grid. Right now we have, and that's going to be huge change for the energy industry next decade.
So, Dmitry, I think one thing you said to me that I'm not going to forget is one perfect grid. Morgan, what are your thoughts on the intersection of blockchain and smart grid?
Oh, I think it is the new world, and I think it's incredible. You've got to realize that blockchain can reduce the ability on your back office to transact with your partners. And when you think about the supply chain, and you think about all the players that are involved in that, you think about the ability from a consumer to get my bills, pay for my bills. And when I can improve the efficiency of that by, reducing costs by 80%, it is significant. It means, energy starts to become digital, truly, we're able to bring that physical being into a virtual thing, and at a significantly lower cost than we've ever seen before. And I think this is the start of a new future. Of course, the industry has to adopt it.
Well, the industry always has to adopt it. And I think the combination of working, sort of side by side in this ecosystem of design, build, implement, and frankly, support is going to be critical for these types of projects across the energy world, with blockchain, being one of, but certainly one of the fastest moving interest levels. So Dmitry, if you had to describe the change in the industry since you've been involved in it for 2 decades, what's one word to describe where it is now? What comes to your mind when you think about this each morning you wake up having to focus on, the world of digital in energy?
Yeah, I think that 2 words for the present, for the future, it could be centralized and decentralized. For the future, I see that the role of utilities could be just service company to maintain the grid, but not to aggregate and provide the energy to the customers, to consumers. And system operators, they could simply disappear as a class. I can even imagine something like a Facebook for energy consumers and providers, some social grid, social network with ability based on geography and type of production just to unite people between each other and have it connected in financially. It's definitely going to a decentralized way of aggregating the data, aggregating the actually energy and distributing the energy, management of distributed energy resources. It's definitely one of the points which is already on the way. And with the blockchain, we can add functionality to settle the financial engagements between every single point. So peer-to-peer communication on the financial and energy distribution.
Morgan, agree or disagree?
Absolutely. I mean, imagine a world where, the new iPhone's out and, all of a sudden now I can power it wirelessly. So if I power that wirelessly, I have to pay, my grid for it. But imagine I go to Dmitry, who says, hey, you can power for me, and I stick my phone there and I instantly pay him. So that is a decentralized model of energy distribution, in a basic, at the most basic rudimentary consumer level, let alone when you start taking that into the massive supply chain. So yes, absolutely.
Interesting indeed. Well, it seems like gentlemen, Luxoft and Digital Energy are really adding some intellectual value to this discussion. And I think the context is fitting to strengths of both of our organizations. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you very much, Morgan. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you, Patrick.